Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here.
So, Nicole, it's so great to have you here. Carrie and I are blown away by your new cookbook, Fat and Flour. I truly don't think I've seen a more exciting baking book come out in years. You're changing the game on a lot of recipes, and we're really excited to get into it. But we always start with the same question, which is, what are you planning to eat for lunch today?
I'm starting late to my day. So I'm actually was about to eat lunch right before this. With breakfast, lunch, I gotta go do deliveries for my shop. So I'm probably gonna eat an egg sandwich in my car, which is not a bad thing because it's pretty much my top 5 favorite foods.
Do you have cheese on your egg sandwich, Nicole?
Absolutely. Yeah. An English muffin egg sandwich from pretty much any place, my house, if I can make one, or any place you can get it, I will always order it.
American or cheddar?
I literally don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Both of them are great. At the house, we definitely don't have American cheese. We'll make them with like Tillamook. Sharp cheddar would be what I would love if I was creating one that was my ideal. It would be sharp cheddar. But yeah, I love American cheese also. It's not real cheese, but it's delicious. Yeah.
Same. Nicole, you grew up in Southern California and you live here in Los Angeles, where I'm located, and you've been running a successful baking business for many years. How do you think being from California has influenced your baking style?
I think that one of the main things that Californians get either like a bad rap for or a nod for is we're like, yeah, whatever, we'll try it. Bagels made in California. We'll make them anyway. I think our whole baking style is like experimentation, finding new things, go with the flow, less serious probably. There are definitely people doing serious things here, but yeah, we're pretty cash. So I think that most of the things I make embody that sort of, I'll try it mentality. Unless you want to talk about like burritos,
There's a sort of rule breaking too that's going to get into my question for you, because I think there's a willingness to get out of convention and the old way of doing things and try something a little radical. We've talked about pie a number of times on the show. In fact, we talked to another very well-known pie baker in Los Angeles, Danielle Bell, who was a judge at the KCRW pie competition, which you famously have won more than once, several times, right?
I won multiple awards in the same contest.
Right. Okay. So that's a big deal for anyone who isn't familiar with that competition. So when we first read your pie dough recipe, it's like nothing I've ever seen before in pie. And I think pie is very intimidating. I've made it by hand. I've made it with a food processor. The way you've written this recipe, I feel like takes all the fear and complication out of pie baking. I would love for you to walk our listeners through what you're doing differently with your dough. I mean, specifically using a stand mixer, which I've never seen before for a pie dough. And also, how did you discover this method?
Yeah, so you're talking about the recipe from the newest book because if people know me and have my first book, when they compare notes, they will see that there is a huge shift in the general style of recipe writing, where in the first book, a lot of stuff was like very much still in that like artisanal, do everything the long, slow way method. In the second book, it really is like, we need to get it done. And we're going to get it done well. And it's like more about an empowerment of the home baker, because at the end of the day, if I can remove some roadblocks and get you to make something delicious for somebody or just for yourself, like that is it right there. pie in general has all this lore around it where everyone has these very specific notes from someone's grandma, at some point who scolded you for, touching it and not using the stuff cold enough and looking at it in the wrong way. All of those things, I think, at one point really helped further the craft of pie. But at this point, we're kind of in this area where people are mystified by this one very, very, very simple product. It's so simple. Basically, during the pandemic, when I opened a pie shop and didn't really realize that meant I was going to be making a lot of pie by myself or with very few people because of the regulations, I was like doing everything by hand and my back hurt and my brain hurt. And like, to be honest with you, my heart was just aching. Like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Is it going to end in 2 weeks? Does this pie even matter?
Yeah.
And you and I are DMing about closing things and changing things. And it was just like, oh my God, everything is shifting.
It was changing every 5 seconds. At the time, I still had my deli, and we were just trying to figure out, like, is it safe to open our doors? The government yet hadn't locked things down.
Yeah.
And you and I were just navigating, like, is this thing so serious that we shouldn't even be around each other?
Yeah. And are we going to like lose our houses? But the truth is that all of those things matter. Taking care of yourself and taking care of your community all mattered. And also, making something reliable that people could look forward to in the scope of that hellscape was very important. But when I got down to it, I really needed to change some things because I really didn't know when I was going to be able to operate like I was able to operate before. And the truth is, I never went back to operating with a large staff of people. It just didn't happen. We have a small staff now because everything has changed. So basically, to get to the point, the pie dough, we would make everything by hand. You smear the fat into the flour, which is why the shop and the book are named that. And then you scrape it all up and then you add the liquid and you press it in. Your goal is to make these sheets of butter trapped between dough that has some moisture in it, so some gluten develops, and then you let it rest and you roll it out. And when you need to make a ton of pie, that process is a massive burden. So it just became very difficult and everything felt hard. And once I started looking at things, I was kind of having a bummer moment and really didn't like baking at the time. And I was just like, I'm an existential crisis, truly. And I just thought, like, there's got to be an easier way. I started asking questions. And then, like, once I started asking questions, I couldn't stop. What else can we make easier? We don't have to cream butter if we do it this way, like reverse creaming way. And we can make pie dough. It's the same exact motion. So, like, if we just try it in the mixer and our pie dough recipe is good, what are we going to get? And basically, that's what I did. And the DNA of the pie recipe is the same. It's got vinegar mixed with sugar, mixed with water, and it has melted the sugar and the salts into the water so that it is all kind of like dispersed throughout it, which means there's going to be no pockets. And it gets drizzled into cold fat mixed with cold flour. And we mixed it in the mixer and then we sheet it on a sheeter. In the book, you're going to laminate it just a little bit, do some folds, as they say. And we ended up with a pie dough product that was more consistent and better than making it by hand. And I just never went back.
I just think the key elements there is to dissolve that sugar, and I use vinegar in mine too, to add that water, vinegar, and sugar and take the guesswork out of how much water you're going to have it all mixed together, and then using the mixer to break up the butter and the flour together without getting so nervous that you're over, like, is it the right sandy texture? Is it the right this and that? Did I do it too long? And then your step-by-step photos, I think, is going to be really helpful to people if they want to make a pie dough easier, because you're really showing this is what it looks like. This is what you do. I just think it's a game changer. It's literally on my to-do list for this weekend to try it.
We're bringing that up about the amount of liquid because that was one of the major parts of pie dough lore that I have always had an issue with, which is you might need to add more water. And when you see people around Thanksgiving making pie dough and posting their dough on Instagram, I can see some gum wrapped around chunks of butter. I can see some really dry stuff that you're not going to be able to roll out, and it's going to be pasty. You can see when butter is worked more into dough, and the butter chunks are smaller. And I have found that like that actually is better than under mixing. And so finding the language to describe, you're going to mix it this much. Also, the guesswork of how much hydration you need is going to be removed from it, because we're not making something like sourdough where a question of hydration might be altered, depending on barometric pressure or whatever. It's just not the same thing. There's so little liquid in pita. You really need to add all of it. Put it all in there. And if you mix the fat and it stays cold with the flour and your body isn't overheating it, you're going to be able to add all of it, because that's the problem when you mix pie dough by hand. If you mix the butter in too much, there's no place for the liquid to go in. So people end up adding less. And then at the end, they have something much shorter and much drier and harder to roll out. This is literally like takes up 1/2 of my brain.
So, Nicole, I want to pivot to banana bread and also share that I have a son. He's 9 years old. He walked into the kitchen a couple days ago and he said, "Mom, is that cookbook Fat and Flour for us?" And I said, "It is." And he said, "Do you know that there are 5 banana bread recipes in that book?" And I said, "No, I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet." He said, "But can we make all 5?" And so we are planning at my house to make all 5 of your banana bread recipes. But I think as a home cook, I am wondering why you felt the need to offer 5 different recipes for banana bread in a book. And also, do you have a favorite child? Do you have a favorite banana bread recipe?
So fun. How old is your child?
He's 9.
He works through it. I love that.
Well, I think he was really called by the color. The book is very colorful and he loves banana bread. He's like a real connoisseur. If he doesn't like it, he won't eat it.
So the banana bread chapter kind of started as a joke. I love banana bread. And I think for a lot of people, it's either the first or the second thing you learn to make if you were born in a certain time. And I was a child of the 80s, and I learned how to make Bisquick biscuits first, or Clabber Girl biscuits on the back of the can. And I know that I learned how to make banana bread second. I just think banana is great. In my first book, I talk about how I think we've lost touch with what a banana is and how it's become like vanilla, in that we kind of look at it in this way that's like it's a functional thing. But bananas are a miracle that we are so lucky that we even still have them. And very likely in our time, we might not have them because they're very difficult to grow. We're losing that whole part of the world. And monoculture has like ruined bananas. A lot of bananas have to be hand pollinated. It's like orchids. We should look at the, instead we're just shoving them in smoothies. So yeah, I love bananas. I always have. And when I was interviewing with publishers for this book, I just was like, I really want to do like a bunch of banana bread recipes. I like the idea of a book that gives you options, but it's not a footnote. You never make the footnote. Hardly ever. I mean, you really have to be reading a lot in order to be like, oh, a variation. That's why there's so many chocolate chip cookie recipes in the book. There's a whole chapter of different types of brownies, not just additions to brownies, literally different recipes, different chocolate percentages. And then there's banana bread. There's 5 different versions. And when we were interviewing with different publishers, most of them were like, "Are you married to this idea?" And I was like, I think it's great if you like banana bread across your life. There's so many versions of it. And pretty much the only publisher who met that idea with like whimsy was Tom Pold at Knopf. And they were like, "No, we like this." Like he got the joke, he got the nod to the era of baking of like the 80s and 90s. And he got also the nod to like, these ideas were made during COVID. What were we doing? We were making banana bread And some guys were making sourdough, and you were either banana bread camp or you were sourdough camp. And that's why they're there. My favorite is the spiced streusel one. I think that's the best. Oh, so good. I love super spicy. I also love the brown butter one with hazelnuts. I mean, they're all delicious. I would never turn any of them away.
I also want to shout out the one that you made for your husband, who is, I think you said he's a distance biker. It's kind of like a workout. If you want to go, and we hike a lot as a family. So I was like, this would be a great banana bread to take for a snack on a hike.
Yeah, it's a high protein banana bread. It has a little protein powder in it. If you're scared of that idea, you should definitely just leave it out. Like, the protein powder is insignificant. I think these days with meal prep and fitness prepping, most people are going to add it. I would say use a good whey protein and not a artificially sweetened protein powder. But yeah, both Blaine and my husband, he's a biker. He does F45 like 5 days a week. I lift weights. I hate cardio, but I love weightlifting. And you're always looking for a way to get more protein in. And that's really the idea, is like, you know, if you want to eat something sweet, pair it with a protein for your blood sugar and a little bit of fiber so that you have something more round as a snack instead of a like cake. Something that's mentioned in the book is banana bread is not a health food. And it was kind of being disguised as like a healthy alternative. But you don't want to eat that banana bread, probably. The one without actual sugar in it, no sugar at all. It's just not. It's not as good.
The spice streusel, you add ginger to that. And that really impressed me because I don't know why I haven't thought of that before. But ginger and banana go so well, especially with those warming, buttery flavors in banana bread. So that's also on my list of things I have to try. You know, we talk a lot about cookies as well. As much as we've talked about pie, actually our first episode ever was about chocolate chip cookies, and just about chocolate chip cookies. Because just like your book makes very clear, there's this whole world of chocolate chip cookies. First of all, there's no one size fits all. Some people do actually prefer a crispy, crunchy chocolate chip cookie. My platonic ideal is the chewy centered, crispy edge chocolate chip cookie, but that doesn't mean it's everyone's. And I spent years working on my recipe. And then I read yours and I was like, this is, again, like nothing. The cookie section in general, not just the chocolate chip cookie recipes, you have your own unique method for taking out the step of creaming your butter and sugar, which I think is, again, a step that is a hurdle for a lot of home cooks. One, you have to make sure your butter is soft. And so that means you have to leave it out, or you have to figure out how to warm it up without melting it on your microwave or your stove or whatever trick you're doing. And then you have to know how long to cream the butter and sugar for. When is it light and fluffy enough? You know, when is it too much? So I'd love if you could also walk us through this method of your cookie base that you have discovered and are now sharing in your new book, Fat and Flour.
So the method for cookie making, and this is how the book starts, and it's on purpose. I really think people should start there, because people who don't bake a lot are going to start at cookies because they're easy, and they are. People who bake a lot, professional, are going to start at cookies, and they're going to see, wait, why have I been creaming butter and sugar together for the last 30 years of my life? And you're like, no, literally, why? Because it was what it was written down. And then every single recipe after it followed that same little rubric of cream, butter, and sugar together, cream. And it's like, how much, when everyone says light and fluffy, pale yellow, like whatever. It's just like, it's so arbitrary. And I know from owning a bakery that, you know, seasons change. Los Angeles is very hot. Los Angeles this winter was very cold. Room temperature doesn't mean jack. It means literally nothing, because it can be a variation of 20 degrees in room temperature, and butter is solid when it's colder and then melts. Butter has water in it. So when you melt butter, if you melt it too much and it boils, you're letting water escape. And then that's going to change the hydration. There's just so many moving parts to perfect fat emulsion that I've just thought, like, oh, the creaming of butter and sugar, ugh, like I hate that part. And when you're making 10 pounds of butter into cookie dough, that bowl is the size of a human, and somewhat human usually a small human, a shorter person is like digging their hand into the bowl and just repetitive motion scraping and making sure that there's no chunks around the edge where it's colder where it meets the bowl and then center. It was one of those things that during the pandemic, I was watching YouTubes and I saw this bakery in the UK called Crumbs and Doilies reverse engineering a levain cookie when I was having like a crisis of should I change my cookie style? Will that make people like us more? To fact, and when they were reverse engineering this levain style cookie, they were sort of reverse creaming. You dump everything into the 20-quart mixer: flour, sugar, butter, leavening. They put the chips in there too in this video. And then you add the fat to it and you mix up and it looks like sand. And then you add the eggs to it and then it becomes cookie dough. And you're like, wait, what? That's crazy. There's no air being trapped in. But, basically what I say is like, we wrote those recipes like that for years and years and years. And that's partially because, as industrial processes got better, and we have chemical leaveners that are more and more reliable, we don't need to trap air in something in order for it to have rise. And that's really what creaming does. If you over cream butter and sugar, you get a lot of air in there and you have a very dry cookie that has a lot of air trapped in it. And if you under cream it, you got chunks and then you have some oily parts. And it was really just a thing where I thought there has to be a better way to do this. And okay, so we're just going to put it all in the mixer at the same time. And then it just works out. What else can I mix this way? Basically, that is, okay, yeah. The butter doesn't have to be room temperature at all. It doesn't have to be soft. You just dump it all in and mix it together. And then you have no excuse not to make cookies. It's so easy. It happens very fast.
I mean, Nicole, I just want to say, as a home cook who has never owned a bakery, I am really grateful that you've thought so deeply about so many of these questions. And I think the idea that you're repeating these recipes with variations, like to go this direction and go to that direction, I'm going to use your word that you used earlier, which is empower. I think you're really empowering home cooks to find the recipe that really speaks to them, whether it's banana bread or cookies or cakes or brownies. But I wanted to know, do you have a favorite? What if you had to eat one for the rest of your life, what would it be?
For the rest of my life?
Yes, you got to pick one.
I mean, that's too hard. For the rest of my life, it's going to be banana bread.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
It can go in multiple directions. And if you add some chocolate chips into it, it can fit the same as a good chocolate chip cookie sometimes. Put some peanut butter on it. If we're in the cookie section now, I'm going to cheat. If we're in the cookie section, I'm either going to stick by the 90s chocolate chip oatmeal. But I also have, and people are going to look at me sideways, I really love the co-op tofu brownie cookie. I really hope people make
that. Was one of our questions for you because that jumped out of the book to us. Like,
I mean, it's crazy.
First of all, the title co-op tofu cookie, brownie cookie, right?
Yeah.
It already has like all the words I love to hear.
You get it. The Portland people are going to get it. It's silken tofu. It's vegan on purpose. It has that brownie texture. It's cakey. It's like, oh my gosh, it's such a good squidgy texture. It just has a lot of textures going on that makes it very unique. And I love it so much because the silken tofu definitely adds that like kind of bounce and squidginess to it. And then the chocolate has cocoa and chocolate chunks. It's well seasoned. It has salt. It has sugar,
It has protein too. So it's basically a health cookie.
I love that cookie so much.
We can't wait to try it. And, Nicole, there's something in your book about your former business partner saying to you sort of like cookies don't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Some version of that. I'm not quoting exactly. And that really jumped out at me as someone who had a deli because when I put my chocolate chip cookie out, I didn't think anyone would care, but it actually became the signature dish of my restaurant and the most ordered item. So I'm curious if you found, because you were known for your pies, Is there something that actually surprised you that it became like a bestseller or a hit with your customer? And was it the cookies?
Yeah. You know what's really shocking to me? We switched, and it's timely because of all the things that's going on with ingredients right now. We switched a lot of the recipes to vegan recipes for cookies. And because eggs were skyrocketing. And I really wasn't even thinking about it, but its alliteration has got to play a role in it. Lemon lavender cookie, extremely popular.
Wow.
Urban chocolate pecan, those words matchable together. Extreme most popular cookie we make, and it's a vegan cookie. That cookie is it's really good. The other most popular cookie is the vanilla sprinkle, and that in the shop is another vegan. The 4 most popular cookies are vegan.
That's shocking.
That's
incredible. I mean, they're really good vegan cookies. So that was a shocking one. But yeah, cookies don't pay the bills. That is what he said. He said cookies are a customer service. They're not paying the bills. Now, being like, why can't they do that? Because you're right. Rue the day that you run out of the chocolate chip cookie on the date that your regular needs that chocolate chip cookie. And I know it's like, well, I'm sorry that I'm going to ruin your day by not having this, but man, you've been there when you really need it. So I get it. They're a customer service. They are also in some part paying bills.
So, Nicole, we always end our interviews with one final question, which is, what do you eat on your birthday to celebrate your birthday? How do you celebrate your birthday?
So I would say, if I'm just thinking like my ideal birthday, it changes every year. So I'm really like not a reliable person. Some years I celebrate, some years I don't. I'll eat whatever. But if I was like to craft my ideal birthday, it would be like a rotisserie chicken, like a really, really good one. And like roasted potatoes with like chicken fat on them and lemon and like a salad that had a lot of vinegar. It would probably just be the chicken dinner from Zuni Cafe with the mustard, chicken fat croutons, and the Zante currants and the roasted chicken. I mean, that's probably it. I really, really love rotisserie chicken a lot. Yeah. And then for dessert, I would have something that I don't make, which is I would love like the most perfect ideal slice of chocolate layer cake with like really fudgy chocolate frosting and a beautiful thin chocolate cake layers and cold coffee of some kind with it. I have never had this as a complete meal on my birthday ever, but take note.
Maybe this is the year. When's your birthday?
It just passed. And I had a really good birthday dinner at a restaurant here and everything was delicious and I'm not complaining at all. It was really wonderful.
Goals for next year.
Yeah.
City Cafe. I love that.
We're big rotisserie chicken people here, so that speaks to us. Everything you said just speaks to us and also makes me extremely hungry.
Right.
Nicole, we just want to congratulate you again on the book. And if people are in LA, they should definitely come try things for themselves at Fat and Flour. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Nice to connect with you again also.
It was great. And Nicole, do you want to shout out how people can find you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Nicole, NICOLE_Rucker. And then the shop Instagram is Fat and Flour LA. And you can find us there. Our website is fatandflourla.com. And yeah, we have 2 locations, one in Grand Central Market in downtown and one in Culver City. We're making pie. We got cookies. It's good.
Amazing. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.